Hello again, everybody. And now our next speaker is Mark, who will tell everything about data mesh. So, Mark, passing word to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Happy to be here. Good day, all. Thank you very much for joining the session. My name is Mark Macari. I'm leading the fast data service offering within the EPAM data analytics practice. We focus on real-time solutions, event streaming, modern data platform, and we work across different business domains with different business use cases, not just for telecom or IoT space. We work with manufacturing, retail, insurance, financial, health, and logistics, just to name a few. And working with such wide spectrum that provide us with wealth of experience in that space, and of course, happy to share some of that with you today. So the data mesh, I think it's really generating a lot of hype around the concept, but somehow it seems that we got lost in the what or what it is. And we really can get a better understanding of the what and how. Of course, if when you take a step back and use the power of why. So, if there's really one thing that's not going to be disputed on my talk today, I think it would be the slide. We have a lot of significant business value when it comes to data and analytics. It's essential for the enterprise, essential for surviving in today's world and today's market. When you have someone competing against you and they have a crystal ball, like predictive analytics, it's a problem that you have to work hard to match that undisputed advantage. And it's not just on the competitive advantage, it's also on cost reduction or generating revenue, new revenue opportunities. Also, it's very important aspect when it comes to risk reduction and security. So, having really those use cases in there that I don't want to go through them in details. I think that everyone agrees this is really of significant business value and nowadays. So we have a lot of challenges really in the data space. It's not just the volume coming in; it's the complexity of the types of the data that coming in, also in the formats, and also the supported use cases. A lot of this really challenges helped us with the data, with the opportunity for the data platform. So you see the rise of data platform to meet those interesting market demands and opportunities. And we have different approaches in there. So as you can see, we started with the data warehousing using the ETL approach, or which is ETL or ELT, where we have the data lake, which is more suitable for machine learning and analytics. In any case, we usually use the Lambda architecture for that. So we have operational data coming in or analytical data coming in that we store those in temporary placeholders, and we run batch processing on top of that with EATL and ELT, and then we send it to our data platforms where it gets processed in there. However, with this existing, and also we have the hybrid actually, which is a mix of data warehousing and machine learning. Having said that, there is some characteristic that actually common on those approaches. So you'll find out that we focus a lot on the batch side. So our precision usually is not in a timely fashion. It's untimely, where we have few stops. Also, it's a centralized approach. So we usually use monoliths, centralized data team, and centralized data platform. And most of the time, that all the processing on the data analytics side that need to run there. We also have the notion right now that of accepting Ambiguous business value for our data set. So we really care more about not missing out on those data sets. We would have them in our storage anyway, even if the business value is not well defined. And we sometimes that we usually have to strike a good balance between governance and usability, but sometimes that we actually let governance take over usability or the other way around, and this is really a challenging aspect in that space. So having those characteristics that lead us to talk about a couple things in terms of pinpoint, in terms of why, on really the challenge to unlock the data value. So we run with challenges on the data quality side and the data availability. So as you can see, those platforms that they are successful to some extent, but still run into issues on those two fronts. And just going to use those two for today, but there's more, but I'm going to focus only on the data quality and data availability issues. And again, we are really caring more about not missing out on the data. So you started collecting everything, and it seems the data lake really became like more of a swamp, and it's getting harder and harder to extract useful data from there. I remember, as an example, one situation that at one point someone collected shipping label as an images to support product geo reports, finding strength point in terms of the geolocation for a specific product, and thought this is a really an easy way to do that by just collecting the images, and somehow that they forgot to attach the shipping labels to a product, so we don't know what those images for. And and on top of just using this kind of format and missing out on relationship, uh, we named it, or it was named as just a label instead of shipping label. So it's not really identifiable, not complete, not searchable, not usable in any way. And I guess all of you that at one point that would run into this one way or another. And another important aspect also is not just on the data availability side, is not just the access and the availability, it's a timely access. It's very important too. So we run into issues, with our point-to-point feeds in terms of negotiating that I need to get this, I need to get that from the source, and we have really slow time to market in there. Also, ease of access is an important aspect. So you'll find out a lot of the times that we find out that it's a data is available, but there is a very complex process to really that we need to go through to get to this data. So that, of course, would lead us to data mesh. Data mesh to the rescue. So as usual, when you run into problems, we have an introduction to an opportunity and a solution. That's where those data mesh concept that introduced to at least fix those two problems that we talked about in the data quality and availability side. So it's decentralized, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. It's using the data product as a concept to drive business value and have more quality with the data that you're using, meaningful data in there. Has the concept of domain ownership, domain-driven design to be able to assign it to a proper group, and also we're going to talk a little bit about this. Embracing self-service and federated governance as a concept. So let's quickly go through those concepts and see that how they are going to help with the problem that we have. So I'm going to use a quick example from the banking industry on I would say, the famous or infamous the customer model. We have situations that in there that we're on the legacy side that you would think, that we have a canonical customer model. We have only one customer model that's owned by the data team. If we have changes on that customer model, then the data team is responsible really for going and making sure that it's a canonical customer model that is synchronized across all and applying the changes in the right way to all. And this is not really realistic. That usually not the case anymore. Well, actually, instead, we run with this instead. So we find out line of business on their own schema and their own model. And whenever there's a customer change that they need to receive that specific customer change only, and apply to those separate models, where it will be able to enhance and enrich and everything about this business entity within your own domain. So the decentralized model really help us a lot with that versus the centralized. And going through the presentation, you'll learn more and more about this. It actually led to the next concept that we are talking about in here, which is the data product. So data product-driven design help us is helping us to guide us through improving quality. So whenever we define the business use, we have a better understanding of the data set that we are using it for. And you can see a lot of things that as this example and out there online that show you how to use a template for it in terms of how you'll be able to identify this data set as a business product, right? And drive value from it. Similar to the customer entity that we were just talking about a second ago. The other thing that also that we need to point out, that the ability to use domain-driven design to identify where is this business entity that belong to, which line of business that will be able to identify the traits that you need to have in this entity, and how you enhance it, how you deal with version control over it, and things like that. That where you would benefit from when you assign it to a party that's really interested in enhancing this business entity and work further with this model. Self-service, it's also very important. So traditionally within the enterprise IT, I guess a long time ago in a different world, before the current business requirement come in and business enhancement that come in, and the new features, or before Agile, governance took a center stage. So you just tell people what they should do and they would do. That's not really 100% the case anymore. Things changed. For a platform to be successful, it must have the incentives. Otherwise people will go and bring in other capabilities that they think that they are more usable and productive. So right now we started to see on the platform self-serve capabilities where people can independently search for the data, metadata, and they would have seamless access to request access to this data, and also easy access to testing and things of that sort. Federated governance is also very important, as you know. So governance in general is important, and it's essential to our data quality. However, when it comes to the distributed and decentralized model that we talked about, it's a lot harder, and we use few techniques in there to enhance on that. Like federated is also the keyword. Contract first design, metadata management, early schema validation, and schema versioning strategy. We're going to talk about the early aspect of those and later on within the presentation. So how about the timely aspect? We mentioned that at the beginning, and timely aspect is really very important and essential, but I think it's one of the most overlooked aspects within the whole cycle. And as you can see, it's not specifically part of the data mesh concept that we just went through. And this is why the word why that mentioned at the beginning is very important. As you can see, that if you are late on realizing the business value, then that negatively impacts the business. If we are late on validation, that impacts the data quality. If we don't have timely access to data, that impacts our data availability. So this is really a very important aspect of the whole thing. So how can we fix the timely and or untimely aspect? As you expect, we're going to talk a little bit about event stream. So event streaming is really an evolution of the traditional event-driven architecture. it's actually solving many of the legacy EDA, I would say, monolith problems that we used to run into, based EDA or ESPs or things of that sort. So the look appending style that was created in there is really solving a lot of the problems that we ran into that space. We have, for instance, native distributed persistence in there that helps a lot with redundancy and durability of the data. We we have reading the message not a destructive operation. We can go back and replay messages and do time travel. We can do a lot of the things that we couldn't do in terms of the elasticity. We have better performance through parallelism. We have with the pull base, the event streaming through consumer isolation, a lot of great benefits that came really through with event streaming. That actually would be a talk on its own, that when we talk about event streaming platforms. So one of the things that also we see right now, that event streaming is used as an API or internal API, right? So it's used in modern application architecture. It's a core component of reactive architecture and Mac architecture. We use it to build resilient, responsive, and elastic solutions through asynchronous processing and decoupling. And as you can see in there, that it shares a lot of the design pattern also with modern data architecture in terms of domain-driven design or command query responsibility segregation and event sourcing. So this is really very, I would say, successful in the modern application architecture space right now, as and you can see. So how about data, right? So when it comes to data, if you think about it, event streaming can solve the untimely problem for us. So event is not just an API, it's also a data product, actually a timely data product. So if you look into our banking example that we were talking about, if this customer event that coming in as as an data product that would have a certain value, that where it can enrich those separate customer schemas or data models or entities in a near real-time way. So this is an actual enrichment. Also, using this approach, you can realize the business value early within those lines of businesses. You can validate early, so you can validate the schema on the producer side, also the same as the consumer side, or the line of business or the application. You can transform early, and you can sort of transform in the right way, because you know now that what you are using, the event or the change on the customer, you know what you are using it for, and so forth. And if you look at this, you'll find out that really probably that's a term that you would hear in the industry right now, that people are talking about streaming ETL. So aside from the traditional ETL concept and ELT that we talked about at the beginning, we actually have streaming ETL, as you can see in there, that coming in, that we're in this model that you would use the event streaming and the events coming in as both APIs and as a data product, right? So we can support real-time processing. At the same time, you can use it for your analytics. You can support batch processing, and you can improve on the quality of your data upfront and early enough. You can reduce the cost by removing some of the point integration. It helps you with the scalability and agility, and also the timing of the data that we talked about. Now, if you really double click on that, when it comes more to the technology side, you will find out that we are using this in an ecosystem into the world, right? So we are using distributed event streaming with a lot of use cases that were used, as we talked about, as an internal APIs, and also as data products. And really the line for the technology between the two is blurring right now. So having said that, when you look at this picture, immediately comes to mind when you talk about the how for the data mesh. So you see in here that we have a lot of the traits that we talked about in terms of distributed model, decentralized, having the ability to use data product driven design, domain driven design, also have federated governance and self-service coming into that space. And we have a lot of vendors thinking about event as data product right now, and actually bringing this to the market. So let me give you a quick demo right now on how someone that actually would bring in capabilities like that within the market space to treat event as data products. So I'm just gonna switch my screen here for a second. So I'm actually going to borrow from Confluent Cloud. I think it's really a very good example on how they are building story in there around having the ability to present events as data products. And I'm going to here. So this is the Confluent Cloud. So for instance, when it comes to self-service or self-serve portal, it's really good to have everything under a single pane of glass. So if we are talking about the stream catalogs, so you can really, for the customer example that we were talking about in there, so you can find all the things that you need to look for when it comes to the event catalog and the events in one place. This is attached to the schema and schema registry on the governance side. So if I click in here, that will take you to the customer change that we were just talking about in here was the customer activity. If I go back and look at dashboard in terms of having the ability to have observability and being able to view your operational and SLA aspects in here. On the governance side, I'm actually going to show you first the developer ecosystem. So if you go to your clients in here, be able to go to see a library of clients. So for instance, if I want to bring in, for instance, a code that for Spring Boot, I can just go in there and start copying the configuration, create the key for it. So if I go in here for my code, I can easily use that and change my configuration in here and just use a quick startup example to run my code. So it's a very, on the self-serve side, it's a very easy way to start with a project in there. And then you have the ability to work with the connectors for a variety of things that you can do under one ceiling. And it actually, when we run that, we can see in here that see all the activity coming in for that customer example that we were talking about. Also on the governance side, it's very cool that it includes not just the source where the data coming from on the connector side. It can also show you the topic, can show you the clients that connected to. And I think you can also dive deep from here into all the aspects that are associated with it, the schema associated with it. It has, when you go to the cluster itself, the ability to do backward compatibility. So if we go back in here, on the schema registry setting, right, you'd be able to see, how this is going to work in terms of the compatibility modes and the situation that we are selecting it as backward compatibility. So it's really, one environment that we have everything in one place with the self-service. You think about it, we have the event lifecycle management, event as a product, the event catalog portal, including the search. You have the schema management in terms of the governance, also including the stream lineage tracking on the producer and the consumer side. So it is not just the you know the brokers and what's happening on our topics. It's also including the consumers and the producers on that front. It has a developer ecosystem, connector ecosystem, has the observability and the monitoring. So this is really just an example on event streaming as a platform, event streaming as a data product, and nothing is really stop you also in there from using it as an API. So that brings us to back to what we are talking about in here. That really now I think this picture is a lot clearer, right? When we saw the demo, what do we really mean by event streaming platform and event as a data product. So to summarize, we talked about the data mesh and the why we have those aspects on improving the quality issues and improving the availability issues for our data. We talked about the how and how we are using event streaming and distributed event streaming as a cornerstone and the foundation for that. We give an example for this on the demo side, and the last word I think wisdom I would say in there that before we switch to to the Q&A. Really, I think about data mesh as modern data platform, right? So if we narrow our thinking into it as if it's just a one thing and one thing only, and it's a box, that would limit our imagination of what we can do with the modern data platforms. So I think about it more as as conceptually as fixing the previous generation, and this is where we introduce the timely aspects to it, and along with the other aspects that we have within the data mesh space. So I think that would conclude the run. I think we are on time, which is great, and then that will take us to the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for a very interesting presentation. Yeah, I have a question regarding this event event streaming platform. Could you name maybe some services and popular cloud providers that implement this idea, event platform?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think and you would see it in different variants. So we have cloud native in there. So for instance, on the AWS side, we have a story, with different capabilities on the event streaming and the Glue as a schema management and things like that. On the GCP, we have the equivalent. On Azure, we have the equivalent. But I think that all of them that would have their own he would have a similar story, but presenting it and using different capabilities also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looks like very interesting detailed presentation. Looks like we don't have any questions, but if anybody has questions, you can connect Mark directly. Yeah, thank you very much, Mark, for your presentation. So yeah,
Thank you.
next talk, and the last presentation that we'll have in 15 minutes. So we're going to close our conference. To share the results and some interesting information. Please stay tuned. See you soon.